It's not quite 7.
Okay, I'm sitting down here because I stand up there and I'm kind of really in the way.
I don't remember seeing him anywhere ever.
You should join me for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oops, I'm sorry. Sorry, person.
That's all right. Keep me around.
First they're trying to use equipment, now I'm trying to make it. Put me on the end again.
Welcome you all to the Britain Township Board of Supervisors meeting for April 17th. The board met in executive session before the meeting to discuss personnel and acquisition or litigation matters. The first item on our agenda is public hearing conditional use 120 Liberty Lane. I'll turn it over to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. McGowan, are you ready?
Well, I'm ready. I seem to be missing an engineer.
That's problematic.
Whom I just reached out to, as I've not yet received a response.
Mr. Jones, do you wish to move this around in the agenda and take care of other business first?
I would think we get through a good bulk of the agenda waiting for your engineer.
Jones, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
So we will hold up on when moves 4A. And if you don't mind, we'll go on to our action items. Motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 20th and April 3rd. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or amendments necessary? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the schedule of bills in the amount of $574,455.72. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion or amendments? All in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion necessary? All in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, adopt ordinance 23-0201, update chapter 16, part 1, establishing a park and recreation board.
I'll make that motion.
Let's do a second.
I'll second.
Discussion on that.
Mr. Chair, I would just point out for purposes of those in the audience, in public here, that the board held a public meeting, or I'm sorry, a public hearing on that ordinance at its April 3rd work session meeting. That's why we're moving right to approval of the ordinance tonight.
Okay. Any discussion by anybody in the audience? There, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item. Motion to approve Central Bucks School District request that the escrow requirement be waived and the consultant invoices be paid as expenses on third. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
The assembled audience that is here, the school is putting a redoing their tot lot area in the back, their playground area. And that's why they're just waiving so they don't have to put up a upfront money. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I thought there's somebody in the front.
Was there?
Oh,
I'm Tom Hack in the school district.
Oh.
I'm just going to ask, how long do you think the project will take?
It's just a summer project.
Okay.
So once school's done, they can mobilize on the 19th of June. So the chance of completion would be August 25th.
Will the old one be totally torn down?
It'll be replaced in the same location.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Next item would be the motion to approve ARC waiver of land development.
I'll make that.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
this is a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's my understanding, you're putting up basically two sheds, correct?
Nothing.
Any questions?
I mean, I guess not. I mean, I just wanted to, just for public record, the board, as it was constituted almost 6 years ago, we did make a condition upon approval of a project at that time that any future work done on the site would require full subdivision and land development. So if we're waiving this is the second time we're waiving it, and I would just suggest that we put that as a condition again.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you remember the work you did back in 2018?
Yes.
Was it similar to what you're doing now? I couldn't remember,
No.
to be honest with you.
Back then, we took an existing barn and tore it down and built our clinic in
That's
this
okay.
spot.
You're right. I
The
could.
only difference in the square footage had to do with the front porch that we put on, which went over an existing macadam area. So it didn't really change the footprint at all.
So that was more of a significant structure. These are more
Yeah.
accepted.
This is two sheds, one is,
Right.
yeah.
So they're a little bit different. I could not remember when the board was asking.
Yeah, I
that
couldn't
before.
remember either.
They're pretty much agricultural use. One of them is for birds isolation, and another one is for some storage, because we had to renovate some pens and we could no longer keep the storage inside where they were.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, motion to approve Tricentennial Committee's recommendation for the township's 300th anniversary. The motion.
I'll make that.
Oh.
I'll make that motion
And I'll
because I sat through the meeting.
I'll second it, and then I have an announcement, like the same announcement I made on last Wednesday.
Okay.
So
Okay, what's your announcement?
I am pleased to announce and would like to publicly thank the township's engineering firm and our solicitor. They have both agreed to sponsor the firework festivities on the date of the Veterans or the Fall Festival. So thank you to Begley Carlin and
Very much.
Thank you.
Gilmore and Associates for agreeing to sponsor that event. So
Happy to do it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pretty soon, I'm gonna run out. I think you better get somebody soon.
Well, do we all like the logo?
Yeah.
Okay. With the we need 300, yes, space.
yeah,
I'm just going to ask, is it going to be on a white background or is it going to be on that sort of grey background?
It's going to depend on what item it's on.
So it literally is, it's whatever is the dark part is the
Mhm.
image, and then it will just go on whatever.
Yes. The
Yes.
the t-shirts that goes on are going to be white.
Okay. It's just like this is on a blue background, so this is going to be on a clear background.
If the color is blue or something, we would just invert where it's dark to white, just so
Okay.
that the color will still be there. So, but that's the general makeup of it. Again, with the committee pointing out the 300 needs to be spaced properly and centered.
Yeah.
And then when do you think you'll start working on the 4th of July parade and the fall festival?
It's already underway.
yeah, it's
I mean,
already.
So you've got some, so will we be seeing those sort of decisions come along as they get made?
So
You could come to the meeting at any time.
I did for the board amendment that outlines what
Yeah.
the two parade floats are.
Yeah.
Lori, who's on the committee, has already started making the 27 rendition of the flag to be hung on the float, so, and she's also started making the birthday cake, so a lot of this stuff is underway. I mean, you know, we just wanted to make sure we got this in front of the board and started to finalize some of these events to show this is where we're moving toward and start putting.
And I just want to point out, in case anyone is thinking otherwise, no one will be jumping out of the birthday cake.
I made sure to reword it in the memo this time.
I'd volunteer, but that's a big birthday cake.
Might take you up on this.
We have something else to vote on.
Next item, motion to authorize advertisement of ordinance 2023-0402, creation of an environmental advisory committee. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on this committee? All those
So-
in favor?
I was just going to say, to reiterate, the next thing would be that this is going to be authorized and advertised, and there will be a copy put on the website so that people will be able to see it as well. And then at our next meeting, we will have the public hearing. Well, the
second.
Oh, no, the next one after. The
Yeah,
15th. Yes.
you changed the scheduling of
Yes.
your first meeting in May, so we would do the public hearing the 15th.
All right.
Right.
Do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item. A motion to award the 2023 farm lease bids. We have a bid for Schoolhouse Road property. It is going to Ryan Bear for Schoolhouse Road. And we also have a bid for the Garabed property with Penview Farms. Is there a motion to approve awarding those bids?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey, next item. Two road names for the Lohan subdivision. And we have Katrina Circle is their choice of what they would like. And that has gone through scrutiny by the township, fire, and everybody. Their motion to approve that.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, motion to approve resolution 23-10, watershed restoration and protection program grant resolution.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Second. And this is a grant that we'll be applying for to help us with the watershed restoration.
Yes, it is specifically, if I might add, for the Brittany Farms Stream Bank Restoration Project. It is included in the 5-year capital improvement plan. We have budgeted $250,000 for in this year's capital plan.
Okay.
Okay. So I do have a comment. Looking at our engineer's report, I know that, would you like to have a letter of support from the Neshaminy Creek Watershed Association? I know that the township had done letters of support for some of their projects. Would you, since it's part of the Neshaminy Creek Watershed, would it help?
Yes. It would not hurt.
Okay.
Any letters. In fact, I think he already gave a list to Matt. So yes, any other letters of support does not hurt for any grant application. So although not required, it definitely, you know.
Yeah, it's just
They
another
look
little
favorably
extra
upon
10
that,
points
yes.
or something. That
I
we
agree.
should- Okay.
Maybe 12 points. I'm not sure. But you'll get a couple.
And we'll also be forwarding, asking for letters of support from our state elected officials. After which I will let you all know so you can nudge them along as well.
So would you like me to give you
Yes,
the
please.
contact for the board? Okay.
That'd be great.
Next item is,
We never voted.
oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of approving resolution 2023-10, signify by saying aye. Item L, motion to approve 396 King Road planning module has been tabled at this
Yeah.
point.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd recommend you table that per discussions with the applicant's professionals. I believe Mr. West received an email confirmation of the extension. They like to present that once they present their project, preliminary plan application to this board.
Your motion to table,
So moved.
for a second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds I'm ready.
You're ready? I don't see a new person that came in the room.
I have a representative of the applicant here, who I believe will be able to provide the requisite testimony for the conditional use, and I can do the balance as an offer of proof that she can then confirm.
Mr. Chairman, in discussing this matter preliminarily with the township engineer, we also believe that we could begin the hearing today. And if Ms. McGowan in the middle of that hearing does find that there have been questions that she'd like her engineer to answer, we could certainly adjourn the hearing to a later date when her engineer is ready to appear and then finish the hearing. But at least this way, we could begin as we've advertised we intended to. Ms. McGowan can present what evidence she has with her. She could present the exhibits that she'd like to present, and then we can go from
Okay, so
if you're comfortable with that.
that I will turn the meeting back over to you to start the.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a conditional use hearing on behalf of for the purpose of Herding Butterflies Limited Partnership. The applicant, Herding Butterflies Limited Partnership, has filed an application for conditional use approval so as to be able to continue the permitted principal use of K3 warehousing with the addition of a gravel lot to be used as and for the use in L2 outside storage. The property in question is located in the IO Industrial Office Zoning District, and use of the L2 outside storage is permitted by conditional use. The conditional use application relates to tax parcel 26-001-100-005 and is located at 120, that's 120, Liberty Lane in New Britain Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Notice of this hearing was advertised in the Bucks County Intelligencer on April the 6th, 2023, and again on April the 13th, 2023. The applicant, Herding Butterflies LP, seeks approval by conditional use to continue the permitted principal use of K3 warehousing with the addition of a gravel lot to be used as in for use L2 outside storage. The applicant's application, as well as all reports and recommendations received from the township staff and professionals, is incorporated hereby into the record. Is there anyone present in the public who desires party status in this matter? Seeing no response, Ms. McGowan.
Mr. Gresh, thank you very much. Kelly McGowan here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is also the property owner and the current operator of a warehouse on this property, which is located in the New Britain Business Park. As Mr. Gresh noted, as part of the record this evening, we do have applicant's application that will be our only exhibit. That does include all of the information required, and testimony will be based upon all of the exhibits provided in this packet. For purposes of the record, I would like to identify the applicant's packet as a cover letter dated February 9th, 2023. Included under cover is the conditional use hearing application of New Britain Township, which was signed by the applicant, as well as an addendum to the conditional use application, providing the additional information supporting that application. Also included within applicant's submission is a zoning plan for 120 Liberty Lane, prepared by Holmes Cunningham Engineers and dated December 7th, 2022. Also included with that application is the deed to the property, evidencing recording on January 6th, 2021, and Herding Butterflies LP as legal title owner of the property. Also included with the application was a environmental impact statement report, which is required by your ordinance to accompany the conditional use application. That is dated February 2nd, 2023, also prepared by Holmes Cunningham Engineering. A single sheet, which is a portion of the township's zoning map. That zoning map confirms the location of this property in the IO zoning district pursuant to your zoning ordinance and zoning map. And finally, included with the application is a series of photographs. That would be 4 photographs identifying the subject property. I will note specifically identifying the situation with respect to the existing structure, as well as surrounding vegetation that currently buffers that property. I would ask that that entirety of that packet be marked as exhibit A1.
It'll be marked as A1, and I will note for the board's information that recitation does match the documents which we have in your packet.
Great, thank you. So for purposes of both an introduction and I would ask the board to accept this as an offer of proof that my witness will testify to. I will have one witness this evening. That is Mr. John Herring. Mr. Herring is a representative of the applicant and Docs Health. Docs Health is the operating company that's presently operating on this property. And we'll provide you with some information with respect to the current use as well as the purpose of the filing of this conditional use application, which is to permit the outside storage in connection with that existing warehouse. This property is comprised of just under 3.4 gross acres. It is located in the New Britain Business Park, as we noted, and the K3 warehousing use is a permitted use. I will note that one of the purposes of the IO Industrial Office District is to provide and facilitate industrial and commercial development that is attractive and well planned. We will show you on our plan this evening, and Mr. Herring will testify as to the planning and the proposed use of this property, which is consistent with the uses of the other locations or other users, I should say, in the business park. There are 3 specific criteria that are applicable to this conditional use to the outside storage provided in your zoning ordinance, and that is specifically in section 305. There's first requirement is that no portion of a street right of way, sidewalks, or other areas intended or designed for pedestrian use, no required parking areas, and no part of the required front yard will be occupied by outside storage or display. We have shown on the plan that I referenced earlier, filed with the application, that we do in fact comply with that specific requirement. The second requirement is that outside storage and display area will occupy an area of less than 0.5 of the existing building coverage, 1/2 of the building coverage of the existing building. We have a 17,611 square foot warehouse, which again is shown on that plan, and the proposed area of the outside storage will be 8,800 square feet. Finally, the last specific criteria is that the outside storage area will be shielded from view from all public streets. As you can see from the photos, and as Mr. Herring will testify to, that will in fact be the case with the location of what we're proposing with respect to the outside storage, both by virtue of existing buffering and actually shielding from the existing warehouse building itself. With that, if I may ask Mr. Herring to be sworn.
Mr. Herring, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
John, can you provide your full name, business address, and your position with your company?
John Herring, business address 120 Liberty Lane. My position is the fleet manager for Docs Health, Power Logistics, and Herding Butterflies. I'm also the facilities manager for Herding Butterflies.
Okay. And before we get too far, you were just present for the statements that I made to the board of supervisors in connection with this application. Do you concur with all of the statements that I just made to the board, and can you confirm that they are factually correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In connection with your position as facilities manager of Docs Health, what does that include, and specifically what does that include with respect to this property?
I'm in charge of maintaining the building, the land, keeping it up of all of the Herding Butterflies.
Herding Butterflies has multiple locations?
Yes, ma'am.
This being one of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And other locations in Plumstead Township as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Located in Bucks County. Can you explain to the board the rationale for the reason why you have requested the outside storage use for this property specifically?
We grew tremendously, and we have, in my fleet, I have over 100 trailers. Now these trailers are spread nationwide, and when the trailers come back in to just be cleaned and stuff, then we need a place to store them before they go out. Currently, we are putting them in our parking spaces, which take up all the employees' parking space. So that's why we're trying to get a bigger area to park the trailers.
Okay, and can you describe for the board these trailers? How large are they? What type of trailers are they?
new trailers that we got are 28 foot long. They're just what they call a tag along trailer, just pull behind your pickup. They're used for 2-op dental units to service our military.
So you just noted the purpose of them. What is the business of Docs Health?
Docs Health, we we service the 5 reserve components of the military and doing all their readiness and dental and hearing tests, dental exams and hearing tests.
Okay. So when a new recruit is brought in to one of the areas of the military, you will conduct those tests and do that process, go through that process?
Yes, every year they have to go through and get recertified, and we go out with our trailers and set them up and do their exams, hearing tests and stuff to make sure their readiness for deployment.
Okay, so what type of materials do you carry in the trailers?
Dental chairs, there's sterilization equipment, examining tools that we use.
Any hazardous substances contained within those trailers?
No.
Okay, any other hazardous substances that would be stored in this area at all?
No.
Okay. Any other equipment, vehicles, or other items intended to be stored within this area?
No.
I'm going to show you the plan that I previously identified that was included with this application. Do you recognize that plan?
Yes, I do.
Okay, was that plan prepared by Holmes Cunningham Engineering at your direction?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And does that plan accurately identify what is labeled as the proposed fence outdoor storage area?
Yes.
Okay. I note that there is a fence depicted on that plan delineating that area. Can you explain to the board your intent with respect to the fencing?
Plan on putting a 6-foot privacy fence up.
Okay. What would be the function of the 6-foot privacy fence for you?
Just keeping people from seeing inside the area.
Is that partially for purposes of security?
Yes.
Will that also screen the parking of the vehicles from the view from all sides of the property? John, I think you said you're obviously familiar with this property. For how long have you been working with Docs Health with respect to this property?
We bought the property January, it's December of 2020, I believe.
2020. So you've been involved with the property since the beginning. Okay, so fair to say you're familiar with the property. Okay, you're also familiar with Liberty Lane and the other users within New Britain Business Park.
Yes.
Okay. Is your proposed use, the outside storage use, consistent with the uses surrounding this lot?
Yes.
Okay, can you identify any of those uses? For users?
Storage, the Dijon is one of them that stores vehicles, and they have a gravel lot in their back there area also.
And that's for the purposes of the record, that's Dijon. Okay.
Dijon.
Right.
Yes, DEJANA.
That's correct. And John, the board's inclined to grant your conditional use for the use. Would you agree to conduct the use consistent with this plan, including a limitation on the area of the use as shown on that plan?
Yes.
Would you also agree to a condition consistent with your testimony that no hazardous, flammable, or explosive material requiring special handling will be stored within the building or be stored within that outdoor storage area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that true and correct as of today?
Yes.
Do you also agree that any additional construction required to facilitate the outdoor storage area will be ADA compliant to the extent required by federal law?
Yes.
Okay. And you also agree to comply with any other applicable codes, ordinances that would otherwise be applicable both to this property as well as to this specific use?
Yes, ma'am.
John, creation of the outdoor storage use generate any additional traffic or that is not currently being experienced on the property now?
No,
So it is not your intent to increase the scope or the extent of the use as a result of having the outdoor storage area?
no.
I don't have anything further.
Members of the Board of Supervisors, do you have any questions?
I have one. Would you agree that other tractor trailers or other trailers of other companies would not be stored on this property? Just
Assure you of that, yes, ma'am.
okay.
My question is, with the gravel lot you're putting in there, what would be the maximum number of trailers that you could fit in there? And if you are putting this lot in, will you then be agreeing that you won't be putting trailers in your regular parking spots?
I'm not going to be putting trailers in there, and I did not put a number to how many I can put in there. I'm assuming I wanted it as big as I can get it, because when you're bringing a trailer in, it's got a lot of room to turn around. So my plan is to have no more than 20 in, and I think that is the highest number I'll ever have.
Okay.
But I don't even have 20 trailers in this area. I mean, currently they are spread out from Boise, Idaho to California, all the way here out of 100 trailers, and they're spread everywhere.
Okay.
In that regard, are you currently storing similar trailers in other areas close to New Britain Township that you would then relocate their storage to this facility?
I only have one trailer that is being stored outside, and that is stored at our corporate office, and it's 128-foot trailer.
Any questions?
Don't have any.
No? Do you have any questions?
I don't. I think all my questions and concerns were in my memo. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Engineer, have a question?
I have a few. I guess this is for the applicant's attorney. You have a pending land development application that was approved multiple times on there, which shows a proposed building in the same location.
Correct.
You're aware of that, Mr. Herring? How are you going to address the land development component of this? Are you amending the application again? You already received approval. Is this replace that? You're withdrawing that application? How are you guys going to process that? Because of other improvements that are shown on your exhibits that are not part of this hearing.
That's correct. And I would acknowledge that an amendment of the land development plan in the form of a couple sheet set would be required. What I'm not prepared to address is the permanent nature, and maybe John is.
Well, let me actually, okay, we're mostly patient. Let me maybe clarify.
Sure.
Mr. Herring, how are you going to access the storage to get the trailers in there? Through the existing driveway and existing parking lot?
Yes.
Okay, your conditional use plan shows proposed new access and parking,
Correct.
but that's not part of this application.
When we build the building that's eventually going to go there, and I'm hoping in the next few years, then that access is what we're wanting in for that new parking lot.
So I believe the staff believe you were building that as part of it to access that. You don't show access from your existing parking lot to this new storage area. Your plan showed new proposed access from Liberty Lane with parking. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes. Sir.
Okay, so your exhibits don't match what you
I assume that's what this line was. So
now, based on aerial views, you have no access where you're showing on your conditional use application. That was part of the land development application. Hence why I'm saying what's coming first. You need to do your land development application and then do this based on how you presented. If you're building a temporary access, it doesn't sound like you are, then your exhibits don't match your testimony tonight.
And what I would suggest is, I think what we did before with this property, which is that amendment to that prior plan, which the conditional use comes first. But to the extent that plan revisions are required, then that would come through that process.
And I think
believe
that's
last time
something
we did
we
it as a waiver application.
You did. And in this case, I noticed there's additional parking shown on this conditional use exhibit than what's on your land development plan. So, and I discussed that with Sean already. So I just wanted you to be clear, you can't come the next day and get a permit for your outside storage. You'll need to amend your application, reflect, if approved by the board, the outside storage, and then add that to your land development plans. If you want to make modifications to the parking, that's fine. But what you're showing tonight doesn't even match the land development plans or what's out there now. So, okay. The privacy fence, are there details for what type of fence? I didn't see that in your application. Do you have?
Did not include that in the application,
Okay.
but I'd be happy to supplement that information.
That'll be something you provide, and we can handle all that, I think, through the land development application, which I think is what Mr. Connery was originally getting into the details, but that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
Now, what is our
access?
So now what is our status now? They have another witness you want to bring
Ms.
in?
McGowan, the ball is in your court. Do you have any other evidence that you wish to yet present in this hearing?
So I do not, and by way of explanation, I think, and to the discussion we just had, this is conditional use, requesting an outside storage use. And I believe that the use has met all of the requirements. The use is consistent with the surrounding area, and the use is, this property is suitable for the use. We've met all those technical requirements. I think we have also established that we're going to come back with an amended plan sheet that will cover all of the engineering points, and that's a proper condition of your conditional use variance.
I don't see a need for it to have an engineer, so if there's no other questions, you can close the hearing.
Yeah.
And I think any of the engineering issues will be addressed at the amended land. That's why I brought that issue in, so.
Any chance, any questions?
Any chance? No. Then the hearing will be closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ask your engineer where he is.
The ongoing construction on Park Avenue.
Yeah, you couldn't get it.
Or get stuck in the South on.
That's more likely right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan.
Okay. Unless there's something else, we'll go to informational items.
Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one thing to talk about to start. It would be the PSATS resolutions. The PSATS conference is coming up next week. Potential resolutions, the statewide organization forwarded them along. Chairman Jones asked me to forward them to the board. If there are any questions that you would want to discuss, it's an opportunity for that to happen at the next meeting. If there are none.
No discussion.
I just want to make sure that I'm voting in accordance with what the supervisors want. Okay.
Next thing is the Coleman property and the future use. So I'm going to also talk about the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. We had a meeting last week where Supervisors Hood and Cynthia Jones were in attendance. Most of the first 45 minutes of the meeting were talking about the status of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. Also in attendance were several members of the Parks and Rec crew and Public Works crew, and also Chris Stanford, who is the project manager with Michael Baker. Most of the 45 minutes were talking about assigning tasks, what in-house tasks that Public Works and Parks and Rec were going to do for the construction of the final link of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. And then the last 15 minutes, we talked about the rest of the property. So if just to remind the board, the Neshaminy Greenway Trail is going to go on the edge of the Coleman property that the township purchased prior to my tenure. on which is a pole barn, an existing two-story garage and apartment, and the stone house, the farmhouse that was raised earlier this year. It's about a 35-acre parcel of land. And unfortunately, Mike and I had a meeting at 11 o'clock. So we left, and the group decided to stay and talk about the Coleman property and that future use. At the conclusion of our 11 o'clock meeting, I heard the meeting still happening. So we reintroduced and we attended the meeting, to which the group informed us that they liked the idea of raising the apartment and then coming up with a plan to potentially build a pavilion with or without public restrooms, and then some sort of facility for an event such as a food truck. It's like some sort of parking area that would incorporate pedestrians. At that meeting, Chris Stanford from Michael Baker said that he would be willing to put a proposal together for the board to consider on what that would look like, come up with a plan for those specific things and put some costs to that. And I wanted to give an opportunity for the rest of the board to discuss it. I know Supervisors Hood and Supervisor Jones, they were at that meeting. If you all wanted to add any additional things that were discussed when Mike and I were not there, it could add some clarity as well. I just wanted to give that opportunity. And I wanted to gauge the interest of the board to see if this is something that you would be interested in moving forward with. So I can then direct Chris Stanford to draft a proposal for the board to consider and have him attend the May 15th business meeting to present that proposal for future consideration. If there's anything else that Greg or Cynthia would like to add?
No, I think it was productive. It was more trying to gather what we thought would be a great focal point for the property. I think when I originally looked at the garage, it was like maybe we could lease out part of the structure to maybe an ice cream parlor or something to make it a focal point. But with further conversation, and how the structure was laid out, that it most probably was more prudent to raise that structure and have not an actual building, but maybe a pad site where there would be water and electricity, and be able to just offer a food truck, an ice cream food truck, sandwiches to come on weekends when it's more popular and busy. And then that way there's no structure there that is only being used part-time. And then the segue was then, well, if we're going to have people stop at that area where there's a great parking lot going to be, why not have a pavilion, a freestanding open space pavilion where with the EAC that is hopefully coming through, we could have outdoor classes and that sort of thing. So, and then it was do we have bathrooms? Do we not have bathrooms? Which was another whole conversation, both from what supervisors felt was different to what our staff was feeling. So, Greg?
Oh, I think that you sum it up pretty well. The Public Works and our Park and Rec representatives that were there wholeheartedly back the concept of tearing down the existing structure. We had discussions about commercially renting the property, residentially renting the property, and the overwhelming consensus was that building is just going to be a black hole of money that the township's going to spend that is not worth it. So we came to the conclusion unanimously that it would be best to tear the property, tear that building down, with that further analysis having been, provided to us by them. And then just like Cynthia said, we had a conversation about the fact that this multi-municipal trail is going in, and that the township has spent, taxpayer dollars on this property, and that it would be a good idea to maybe give something back to the residents of the township to provide an area for them to congregate and enjoy the trail system. you know, there's going to be a parking lot. There should be some kind of an amenity for people to, you know, be able to, you know, have picnic lunches at picnic tables possibly, or the township can hold functions at, you know, something on the site. So, you know, the consensus again of the group was, you know, pavilion would be a good idea. Every other township owned park area or large piece of property that has township or taxpayer usage on it has a pavilion for the taxpayers to use. So that was the genesis of the pavilion. Veterans Park has it, North Ranch Park has it, Schoolhouse Road Park has it. I don't think West Ranch has a pavilion per se, but it's got an area for people to congregate at and be at. So bathrooms, another story. I'm still not sold on bathrooms. Neither is our Park and Rec head. He's not particularly fond of the concept of having bathrooms because the maintenance and upkeep of it is problematic. The only wrinkle that was thrown into all of this conversation was the fact that the township was approached by a facility user that would like to possibly rent a part of the land, and we may be receiving money that could actually be turned back into paying for maintenance on things at this property. So so that was that. I think that kind of succinctly wraps it all up in a bow.
I have a couple questions. First of all, this has never really been designated as a park.
Correct.
And the whole question of what are we doing with the Coleman properties always come up.
Right.
Second issue is, why is the garage is structurally sound and the apartment is structurally sound? We had talked about looking for a nonprofit that might want to release it and would be responsible for the upkeep. What type of upkeep are we currently expending on that property? Minimal. And again,
but once we become a landlord, that's a problem then.
Well, not if the lessee is responsible for the maintenance, et cetera, et cetera.
To a point, yes, but we do open ourselves to liability, and then we have issues with renting a piece of property out to an area where the public is using it on a daily basis.
So what kind of usage are we seeing over there?
Well, the trail hasn't been built yet.
Yeah,
I know.
hard to know.
What kind of usage are we seeing on the trail? I mean, I don't kind of get the idea of a food truck, because I'm not sure that a food truck is going to want to be at a place where there's no record of having crowds of people there to purchase.
Yeah, the food truck's more a pie in the sky type of thing.
Well, I think it depends on what you decide to do with the rest of the property over there.
Right.
I think I kind of like to.
Any other question, John?
Nope, that was it.
Is this in our capital plan? Do something over? We don't have anything listed in the capital plan for this?
I will remind the board, this property was purchased with open space funds. Therefore, any or up to 10%, no, 25% of the standing budget per year can be spent on development and or maintenance of a parcel purchased with open space funds.
I'd also like to bring to the board's attention that we budgeted $75,000 this year for the demolition of the farmhouse, and we did not come near that amount. So there's approximately $33,000 left in that line item that is yet to be, that is unallocated.
When you say you're not too sure if it would be a well-used area, it's the missing link for the Neshaminy, which will take you from heart of Chalfont all the way through past Unami, around the back along the creek, down along Bristol, behind where there is the stub of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail at the moment, continue through across Upper State Road, along I call it the sewer trail from Upper State Road to
the Parkway.
The Parkway, and then you can go from the Parkway all the way through to Doylestown. I see that. I know a lot of people walk from middle of Chalfont all the way to the end of the trail before it hops on the road and back. It's a great place for people to walk, experience the trail, experience the river. Actually, it's beautiful, herons and everything. There is not a single bathroom anywhere from Chalfont all the way to Central Park. So having somewhere where it would have a great, it's in the middle of that trail, a landing spot for good parking, bathrooms, be it plumbed or porta potties, I think will be an attraction to that point. If you, now that we have the house down and you take down the garage, there is still a great already cleared area that would be perfect to have, not a soccer field or anything, but a sort of active throwing frisbees, that sort of stuff. There's also the idea of having a nature trail, which would be, we were discussing between wood chips and or just brush cutting, is that was the word?
Yeah.
Along the river. So, and I know that New Britain Borough would be interested in maybe trying to connect across the river somehow with their Wilma Quinlan
Nature
Preserve. So, I mean, it could be a hub for that trail. I mean, it could really be a bright spot in that area that could connect a huge amount of people. There are so many families that could be walking, riding along that trail. So I don't think it's going to be not used. I think it's going to be highly used.
My point was to use with enough people in one spot at one place that it's going to attract a food truck, sit there all day.
I'm saying just for weekends. That's why I go for a food truck rather than having a leased person in a building. I mean, a food truck,
that was always kind of a pie in the sky idea too.
Yeah, but a food truck, I mean, Nina's from Doylestown could bring their food truck down for Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon on a weekend, and I bet you that's going to be a great draw for people to know, oh, there's a food truck coming. Let's go out on the trail and we'll be able to get a treat at the end. I know I love treats at the end. Mine's more like an alcoholic treat. But,
That's township property.
I'm not saying we should have those on there, but I know
that raises a little bit of a concern of having food trucks, because that attracts that.
The neighbor, we could have them come by and never mind.
Oh yes, I'm right. Yeah.
One question I would have, you're talking about attracting a whole lot more people to it than was initially contemplated with putting this connection to the trail in. So what does that, how does that impact the neighbors around that particular property? And we're talking about converting something that right now is just passive open space to an active park. It's going to be a very different look for that area. And how do the neighbors around there feel about that? I don't know the answer to that, but it's just something that,
much as I hate to say it, we're going to have to open that up to the residents over there because they weren't happy about the trail to begin with. And we kept it as far away from them as we could. But
yeah, no, we didn't. It ended up being put right on the property line.
And just to piggyback on that, you know, the parking lot that's going to be put there is designed for the trail usage. It sounds to me like this would be a much more concentrated use of having more people there. So does that mean a bigger parking lot?
It's got 30 spaces at the moment, I think. It has 30 spaces, which is quite large for a
if you have a gathering at a pavilion, you could easily take up those 30 spaces, then there's no spaces left for people to use.
Well, that would be where we would look for Michael.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to. That's why we recommended to have the specialist research all of that
out in the report or in the plan, the study. You know, if you build a pavilion here, how many people, how many parking spaces, ADA parking spaces do you need, and what's the proximity to them? It could mean additional parking closer to the now existing apartment.
Is he going to look at the property as a whole with the trail?
Yes,
I think that's what's needed. We need a
yeah,
or just go spot building pavilions or something.
So that was the concept of bringing it to the board. Is this something we'd like to progress with? And the only way we can start looking at if we wanted to do grants is by having some kind of plan. So do a proposal, see what it will cost to do plans.
So once he creates a proposal, we can tweak it then if we don't like what he's brought to us.
That's what I'm proposing, that he would come and propose and present to the board on 15th.
What it would cost to do a proposal.
No, well, that would be a part of it, but what the proposal is.
Okay.
First blush, look, this is what the ideas are. This is what I've heard from that working group. This is what I'm hearing from the board. This is our idea. This is what the proposal will be.
Gotcha.
Greg, you mentioned
Before we
something
spend
about
any money.
Yes.
Okay.
Greg, you mentioned something about there's a possibility that somebody might want to use a portion of that area. You brought up the fact that somebody may want to use a portion of that area.
He's talking about the cell tower.
Oh, I didn't know if that was public knowledge yet or not, so I was trying to speak around it. So yes,
Nothing formal yet.
nothing formal.
Nothing to discuss publicly.
But I mean, that would also affect the plan as far as parking.
Sure, and they're aware of that.
They're aware of that, yeah, and for everyone's. They already have to go back and tweak the plans based on the conversations, the working plans of what has already been approved as part of the grants. So he's already going to have this all open. So because he is already working on it, it would actually probably be a cost savings to have him continue looking at it while he's already doing what he has to do as part of pre-construction planning and tweaking of where things were going to go and how things were going to be done based on feedback from our public works last week.
I guess just a couple of questions here. And I may have asked this before and I may have just forgotten. Is there public water? There's no.
No, and so that was another.
There's electric?
There is electric.
Okay.
There's an on-lot septic tank, but there was well water from the existing farmlands, so that's been put. And so in order for the apartment to become viable, we would need to run water, and we would actually make the recommendation of running sewer also.
Well, and to piggyback on that, regardless of the apartment needing public water and public sewer, our public works, we're going to request us to at least run public water and public sewer to the barn that's on site.
Yes. Which they will continue to use as housing
Yes.
equipment there and working on doing maintenance on equipment there as well. So
Yes.
they will need to have some kind of
Facilities.
So you've got the neighbors on Willowwood who are probably closest to the property.
Yes.
There's really nothing across the street except the sewer authority.
Correct.
They care what we do.
Well,
no, directly opposite would be another development, but they have a huge, there's a
There's a leak.
big easement for a trail. Well, the trail's already there.
Yeah, they're pretty
Okay.
much set.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess my other question is, we're talking about tearing down this garage / apartment. Again, I'm not an engineer, but you have a concrete footprint there that would be perfect if you could salvage it for your base for your pavilion.
Possibly.
Or even a base for, if you wanted to have a, if it's large enough, I don't know the measurement. But you could have a pavilion there with an area that would also have an area where you could pull up a food truck.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And those are really good points, and those are the details that I would expect to be included in the analysis and the proposal that, we would ask Chris Stanford and Michael Baker to do.
It's a little hard to rent that building if there's no water or sewer. Yeah.
Well, I agree with that. We're tearing it down.
I didn't realize there was no water or sewer.
Well, there was water and sewer until we tore down
We
the
tore
main
down the
house.
building that it was attached to.
Yeah. Well, that had to come
I'm
down.
not quite sure you would have wanted to take water out of that well anyway.
Yeah.
You're saying that the Neshaminy water isn't good?
It's an old well.
Water
It's an old shallow well.
Okay. So what is the feeling on the board? Do they want to go ahead and at least have Chris Sanford come up with a tentative plan for?
Develop a draft proposal for the board to
Yes.
review and have him present at May 15th for the board to consider moving forward.
With some disc frisbee and a couple pickleball courts.
What about bocce ball?
See?
I hear all the time.
Okay.
Everybody was.
Adult recreation, which we lack in this township, adult, other than walking.
Well, adult
Well,
recreation that's not mixed with a child sports field. because
It's getting
they're
hidden after the
used
soccer
for
ball.
Yeah, it's competing. So I get you.
How about Highland Park? We're considering some sort of adult facility right near there. Would make much more sense for pickleball and,
Well, they used to set up pickleball on the basketball courts every Saturday and Sunday morning.
Doesn't have to be restricted to just one spot in the township.
okay. All right, so I think the shaking of the head is that we will go ahead and ask him to come up with a lush plan as to what he envisions.
Good, thank you. I wanted to provide a brief update on the 2023 road paving program. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the road paving guru, Mike Walsh.
Just want to keep the board up to date. We are on track for the May 15th award of this bid. The bid opening will be on May 9th. I checked before this meeting and we already have at least one person inquiring about the bid, and I expect at least one or two more before the end of it, at least one more. And as I stated, I think in the previous meeting, we did advertise this with an alternative, as we've done in the past with the 2024 roads, curbs, and things on that, because this board asked for more concrete numbers on what that might cost. So we're moving forward that. The first advertisement went out last Friday, with another one set to run this week. Or next week, excuse me, on the 27th. And bid opening on the 9th. So we're moving forward that, and you will have this in front of you on the May 15th for award.
Any questions? All right. Departmental reports.
Departmental reports were submitted, and I just want to turn it over to Chief Glasser if he has anything he'd like to add.
Mr. Chairman, board members do have a copy of my report. One thing we want to update on is dog-borne cameras. We have received the dog-borne cameras. And we will start training with them next month. Is the earliest that the Exxon can get us scheduled to start the training.
No negative feedback from our police staff about the body-worn cameras?
When would you expect to deploy them?
By the end of May.
End of May.
We'll be training trying to get the training date moved up. Right now it's scheduled for I think the 23rd of May. But if we can get that moved up, we'll deploy them sooner, but by the end of May we should have them deployed.
But you have all the hardware in-house and everything?
We have everything already.
Good. Any other questions for the chief?
How's our hybrid order coming?
I talked to the dealer last week, and he anticipates that it's on track to be delivered by the end of May.
Really?
So that we will probably, it'll go to the outfitter depending on their schedule. We should have it sometime in June.
Great.
Finally. Okay. Pretty good.
Maybe in time for the 4th of July parade.
It's only what, a year and a half, 2 years waiting for that.
We will need to discuss that we do have a second vehicle budgeted for this year. It's unlikely that we'd be able to get a hybrid, but we can get a gas model if we decide to go that way.
Just to add a little color to that, we are experiencing some pretty critical failures with the police department's fleet, which is why we're budgeting for additional vehicles every year. This is not what we would like to do in the future. The idea is, in working with Chief and his vehicle replacement plan, is to do one a year, but unfortunately we're getting multiple a year, which is a challenge when you buy vehicles in bulk. They all tend to die at the same time. Also, police vehicles are notorious for not lasting long because they put a lot of miles on them and they're pretty tough on them. So it may seem like we're buying a lot of investing in a lot of vehicles recently because our fleet is aging, and the idea is that in the future we want to do this more on a long view planned approach instead of buying when they break.
How many do we have in the fleet at the moment?
We have 8 patrol vehicles.
How many are coming to the end of their life?
6? Well, we
are pretty new.
I mean, we're reducing the size of the fleet as well. So there was a vehicle shortly after I got here that was decommissioned immediately and was never really replaced. Since then, we've decommissioned one other vehicle. We had a vehicle that recently needed about $2,000 in repairs, so we decided that it'd be best to do the repairs, even though the vehicle has over 140,000 miles on it. So there's 3 vehicles that are left that are near their end of life or should have been replaced several years ago.
Because we were replacing the vehicle a year. I don't think we missed a year.
I thought there were a couple of years with COVID that we didn't
Yeah,
replace vehicles.
We weren't able to get.
Yeah, there's no vehicles replaced since 2019 prior to me getting here. So at least on 2020, 2021, the vehicles were replaced.
Which would have been first year of COVID, second year of COVID.
Right.
First year and second year of COVID.
Couldn't get cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Anything else? Solicitors report?
All solicitors, relevant to the solicitors reports were given either in executive session or in the prepared written report.
Any questions?
Okay, question.
Engineers report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have our April engineers report, just one addition that's not in there. I did update Matt on this topic. The New Brick Corporate Center developer Petrucci that you saw the presentation on with the assisted living and the apartments, or yeah, I guess apartments, and then the medical office. They heard your message loud and clear, what you liked and what you didn't like. They asked for my input and direction. So talked to the engineer and the solicitor, call back several times to confirm Friday that they're not going to pursue the apartments on lot 2 at this time. They still really would like to try to persuade you that's a great idea. But they're willing to, they don't want to hold up the rest of the project. So the assisted living facility still requires a zoning amendment, or however we decide to move forward with that. The medical office building behind CHOP is actually by right. So they discussed it, and the engineer solicitor advised Mr. Rogerson from Petrucci of how to proceed. He agreed, and staff should probably see something next month or two on a first shot at what they need relief on, and it'll be a proposed zoning amendment. Then you'll have to have a hearing. We'll go through staff level, probably several staff provisions to go back and forth, get input from you as well, and then have a hearing to amend the zoning ordinance to allow that assisted living facility on lot 4. But it will not include any proposed development on lot 2.
So, but they're not going to move forward with the by right warehouse on lot 2 at this point either.
They not at this moment, no. They would still like to spend the next year persuading you to look at other uses. I did agree that staff, and I got some input from a couple of board members. They're willing to look at certain things, but residential's off the table, but maybe some type of use that's more compatible with the surrounding uses. And I said, come in if you have a tenant. Right now, they don't have any tenants, and they will eventually build a warehouse if it doesn't, once they're done with the assisted living facility. If there's no other tenants or users, or you wish not to change zoning, they'll move forward with the warehouse at that time, but that will be off the table for the rest of the year. All right.
I would make a joke here about private jets to Tahiti, but I don't think that would be appropriate. So. No.
That's all I have.
Okay. What are supervisor comments?
Okay. My comment was that thank you for thinking about the expansion of looking at the park and some other ideas on how we can use that one. I know you've been asking us to think about names for this park, this area, instead of calling it the Coleman property. I was trying to think about how would I go about looking for more historical versions or names that have been in the area, since I'm only a recent resident of 25 years, but don't know the real past history. I was thinking of like Rivers Bend, since it really is a bend of the Neshaminy Creek. So where would be something that we could go look for more historical names or past properties or something?
Bob Shovel.
We used to have a book that was out here. It had all the old properties, old farms and ranches, things like that. I don't know whether that was even put in that book or not. But that may have some information.
Only made it through a half of that book so far. Like every time I walk through, I flip through and look at them.
Yeah.
I don't recall anything with that property yet, but we do have that. It's like a photo book with a whole bunch of historical
Okay.
names.
So a lot of little areas had specific names that are kind of getting lost, like Lime Kiln.
Like a lot of
County Line was Lime Kiln, and Horsham Road was Prospectville, and then
Well, so like we're up on the hill where I'm at,
Right.
a lot of the properties all are they're called the Land of Mary Todd, I think it is. And all the deeds are drawn up, you know, from that referencing of like the lands of Mary Todd or something like. I think it's Mary Todd.
Just the legal description for that property.
Yeah.
I'd start with the deed when we purchased it, because a lot of those descriptions go back to
They're in
from
the
the
deed?
property of
Yeah.
John and Gertrude Smith to the corner of the tree on the, yeah.
The recorder
Any how old the descriptions are.
The recorder of deeds office in Doylestown does a lot with historical deeds of the area as well. They might have some resources for you.
I followed our deed all the way back to the early 1800s, maybe late 1700s. I found that it was still its own parcel at that point, and then at some point before that was part of a larger parcel.
If you're ever in Doylestown and you're bored, go to the recorder of deeds and
go for a wander.
follow them back. That's how title searchers do it. Yeah, but a lot of times you'll find some very bizarre references that go back to, you know, just points on a
Hangman's curve, you know, it could be anything.
yeah. I don't think we want to use that one.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Is that your official?
No,
Yeah.
no, I could think of some other names, but not that.
Katrina, sir. No.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Marching orders.
Anything?
Yep.
I don't think I have any comments today.
Like seeing the work of the Veterans Committee and working together with the 300th and coming up with a good plan for what we're gonna be
I'm
doing.
sorry, I have to put in the plug for the bingo night on Friday at the Shrine. Buy your tickets, come on out.
Buy them now, they're cheaper than if you go at the door.
Yeah. Do we have some nice bags? Have we found some?
I think our
They all look nice to me, but.
Okay.
that everyone needs more purses, but
It's fun to bring those.
I'll bring some of my wife.
I'll be there.
Hey,
Yeah, looking forward to bingo on Friday night. That's all.
Greg?
Nope.
Oh, I have nothing at this point in time, so if there's nothing else, is there any public comment?
One, if you're thinking about names, maybe, and I don't know if there's history of this among you, because I haven't been coming for very long, of looking at Native American names. There could be an appropriate Native American name. Well, mission to Chamonix, it just might, there might be some.
It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Announcements? Oh, I'm sorry.
Or in honor of our 300th anniversary, maybe called Tricentennial Park or something would reflect past as well as past. So 300th anniversary, so it's happening at this time, so it'd be nice to.
It's kind of a big sign. Big sign.
Be nice to put our township logo on there and things.
Yeah, we could put a logo on the sign. We could put a logo on the sign. The 300th. I don't know that.
Well, it should be, the construction should be finished before the end of the year, wouldn't it?
Would it be South Branch?
Yeah, it would be South Branch.
South Branch,
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
It's just the mission.
It fits with your nomenclature. You have a North
South
Branch, you have West Branch. How about South Branch?
Are we making this a park?
I give that credit to
Do we
Mike.
have
He's
to
a
do-
little-
South Branch at Creek's Bend.
Yes. Is that like the overlook of Wawa? I'm good at that.
I like that one better. Okay,
No, there's no waffle going in there.
no other public comment? We're down to announcements. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will take place on Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. The agenda and meeting materials will be posted on the Township website before the meeting date. And
That's on the hearing, isn't it?
It's a, conditional use hearing.
Yes.
yes, that's all that will be discussed at that meeting.
And I also have a couple of announcements if I might have some time.
I don't see that down
I thought we were still under
Should be
announcements.
covered in the council.
You know,
Okay, fine. I'll give you comments.
My thunder was stolen with the plug-in the Hisn't for bingo, so you all know about that one. But I just wanted to say planning is underway for the annual tri-municipal 4th of July parade. For the stakeholder kickoff meeting that was held last week, in addition to the 3 municipalities, I just want to say that we are also cognizant of the construction project here, and we've incorporated representatives from North Wales Water in these working group meetings. And you know, I just got to say, I am not a special events kind of guy, right? Just anybody knows me knows that. Having Christine Nicholas here, she's like turning me. She's something else. And I just wanted to give a shout out to her and especially the Tricentennial Committee. Just watching what they're all doing and really coming together and making this thing work. It's pretty exciting. And for me, who's not a special events guy, hats off. So I just want to keep plugging that, and I'm proud to be a part of that and really excited about the parade and the fireworks and commemorative, everything that we're doing for it. So
Greg, are we having fireworks?
I don't know. Have we decided on that?
And that's all I have. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. No, I did get notified and we posted on the website that North Wales, they will be on Park Avenue tomorrow, starting tomorrow, and the road will be closed. We just recommend any residents who need to come to the Township building, follow the detour, go around Creek Road and down Park Ave, the northern side of Park Ave, until they get beyond the municipal building. Then we'll tell you to come up from Shelf Farm.
Does the work finish at 3 every day? It reopens at 3 every day?
That's correct.
And I'd also like to reiterate, I did check their website today. Where they're working is being updated on the North Wales page. They are having a descriptive detail at the top that says where they'll be working. You know, I think I'm gonna keep my eye on it, but hopefully for like each week, it'll kind of outline where they're gonna be on Park Ave and Ferry Road. So we continue to put out the link to their website page. Recommend all residents continue to monitor that to see where they'll be working at.
And the road closes at 9 a.m., right?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll still be able to get to work.
Stop reading into me.
If not, you can always come down Lindenfield Parkway, park there, walk across the bridge. Where there's a will, there's a way.
One final announcement. Go Sixers.
My question is, concerning the number of people that are of senior age, how are they going to be informed that they will not be able to come from 152 right to the Township house?
So you can.
You can, okay.
You
Well,
can. We're recommending people don't. Because there's no guarantee that there's going to be someone at the beginning of the construction zone. If you do, like if you're a resident of this area, of course, emergency vehicles and trash and anybody who needs to come to the municipal building, they will be allowed access. If you have to go that way, just please use extreme caution. Make sure you are seen by construction workers and they should be able to guide you on the one side of the road that they're not working.
Well, that was my question, because
It's tax.
we're getting to the end of
Yes.
April, which is a severe tax
Busy
time.
time for.
And they're well aware of that.
Okay,
Let them know that.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so the minutes and posting of this meeting will be within the next 24 to 48 hours. Pardon?
The video post.
Yeah. Fine, video.
That's getting.
If there are no other items, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Third section.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.